It is a joy to approach pure springs and to drink from. It is a joy to approach pure. It is a joy. It is a joy to approach pure springs and to drink from them. And it is a joy to pick new flowers.
No stress.
And to seek
That's what
a
technical tests
glorious
are for.
crown for
Don't
my
worry.
head from that place
All
where
good.
the muses never yet have on a mortal's head a garland set. Because I am teaching about great things and try to free men's mind from the narrow bonds of religion. Nothing ever comes to be from nothing. Nothing ever comes to be from nothing through divine intervention. For certainly not by design did the first beginnings of things arrange themselves in their order, with keen intent, nor surely did they reach an agreement about what motions each would take, since many of them are moved in many ways throughout the universe, and from endless time are stirred up and excited by collisions, by trying motions and unions of every kind. They finally arrive at arrangements which produce and maintain the sum of things. And with whatever motions the first beginnings now move, they moved with the same motions in ages past, and in the future will always be carried along in a similar way. And they will arise under the same conditions, and will exist and grow and flourish in their strength, in so far as it is granted to each through the laws of nature.
Can you unmute me? It works. I can see the video. Just for your information, I had yesterday as well. It's mono on the left speaker and relatively quiet, the sound from the computer. But I don't know if that's the same if I put headphones on or something. It's just right now it's yeah.
It is a joy.
No, I just sent. Can you hear me?
It is a joy.
Okay, I just because I kept speaking, but you couldn't hear me. Yes, I don't have it yet. Okay.
And it is a joy to pick new flowers. And to seek a glorious crown for my head from that place where the muses never yet have on a mortal's head a garland set.
Yeah, no problem.
Because I am teaching about great things.
Yeah, the thing has not come in yet. So, is there a chat that you can put it in so you just get it there? I don't see the chat. Oh, yeah. Great. Okay.
And try to free men's mind.
Right. So I can see it now.
Of religion.
There's a very big delay.
Nothing ever comes
Okay.
to be from nothing through divine
Well, that's fine. And so
intervention, certainly not by design.
when we do what we were doing the other day, so when I see myself go into my bubble,
did the first
I begin to speak at
things
that point,
arrange
or no?
themselves in their order?
But that delay is, I just heard
With
that
keen
delay, and the
intent.
delay was about 10
Nor,
seconds.
nor surely did they reach, nor surely did they reach, nor surely did
Yeah.
they reach an agreement about what motions each would take.
Sure.
Since many of them are moved in many ways throughout the universe.
Okay. Try it again.
And from endless time are stirred up and excited
Hello.
by collisions.
It hasn't shown up. I mean, it's not there at all. Oops, that's not it. Hold on.
By trying motions and unions of every kind.
So I'm not pressing play. That's correct, right? I definitely
It is
don't
a
hear
joy.
it. Of course.
It
I'm
is a joy
okay.
to approach pure springs and to drink from them. And it is a joy to pick new flowers.
No,
And
I
to
need to
seek
press
the
play on the
glorious
YouTube,
crown
no?
for my head.
Yeah. I think, Johnny, you have to play, press play on the YouTube. I can hear you on the YouTube. It works.
From that place where the muses never yet have on a mortal's head a garland set.
Shall I try as well to say something?
Seconds, is that it? Oh, sorry. So if I see myself on the screen in that bubble, then I still I wait 10 seconds. Is that the idea? Okay. Okay. And so today we're going to do the actual 3 minutes on emergence, or no?
Because I am teaching about great things.
Yeah, I'm okay with either one. I thought it was a full rehearsal, but if it's not, then that's also fine.
And
I'm
try to
easy
free
on this.
men's mind from the narrow bonds of religion.
Okay.
Nothing ever comes to be from nothing through divine intervention. For certainly not by design did the first beginnings of things arrange. For certainly not by design did the first beginnings of things arrange themselves in their order. With keen intent, nor surely did they reach an agreement about what motions each would take. Since many of them are moved in many ways, since many of them are moved in many ways throughout the since many of them are moved in many ways throughout the universe, since many of them are moved in since many of them are moved in many ways throughout since many of them are moved since many of them are moved since many of them are moved in many ways throughout the universe, and from endless time are stirred up and excited by collisions, by trying motions and unions of every kind, they finally arrive at arrangements which produce and maintain the sum of things. And with whatever motions the first beginnings now move,
Okay.
they moved with the same motions in ages past. And in the future will always be carried along, and in the future will always be carried along in a similar way.
Okay.
Willkommen, das ist zu laut, oder? Okay, willkommen bei Planetary Skins. Wir befinden uns hier in einer Teststation, einem Prototyp, in dem wir uns mit der Materialität des virtuellen und physischen, realen beschäftigen, um so einen Imaginations- und Verhandlungsraum aufzufalten. Planetary Skins ist wie eine osmotische Haut, in der das Virtuelle zum Rahmen zwischen physischen Orten und virtuellem Raum wird. Es geht uns nicht um die Simulation von Realität, ganz im Gegenteil. Die Virtualität, wie wir sie verstehen, verbindet Mitwirkende aus unterschiedlichen Weltteilen miteinander und bringt reale Ambivalenzen, Konflikte und Potenziale in Resonanz. Es geht uns auch nicht darum, ein Bewusstsein zu schaffen über die ökologische Situation oder über politische Problemzonen. Wir wissen ohnehin alle Bescheid. Was wir vielmehr brauchen, sind Werkzeuge und mehr noch die Fähigkeit zu handeln, das, was man Agency nennt. Agency bezeichnet James Bridle als Gefühl, die Kontrolle über sein eigenes Leben zu haben und Schritte zur Veränderung ergreifen zu können und damit auch unsere Welt zu gestalten. Der Verlust von Handlungsmacht bzw. auch das Gefühl ihres Verlustes verhindert hingegen, dass wir neue Vorstellungen und Verhaltensweisen entwickeln und ausprobieren. Und das genau ist das Drama, das nicht nur Einzelne, sondern ganze Gesellschaften erfasst hat. Unter Agency kann man auch die bewusste Wahrnehmung verstehen, dass man alles lernen kann. Wenn man weiß, dass man sich Dinge aneignen kann, kann man sie auch angehen. Und man ist in der Lage, Vorstellungen zu entwickeln und sich nicht entmutigen zu lassen, wenn diese als utopisch, als Fantasiegebilde oder Fabulationen abgetan werden. Über 3 Kontinente hinweg werden Künstlerinnen, Philosophinnen und Wissenschaftlerinnen fabulieren. Sie werden uns künstlerische Imaginationen, poetische Wortbilder, wissenschaftliche Erkenntnisse oder einfach Geschichten näher bringen. Auch wenn sie aus unterschiedlichen Geisteswelten stammen und sich verschiedener Realitätskonzepte bedienen, was sie verbindet ist, dass sie über die Möglichkeit einer Welt in Vielfalt sprechen. Diese organischen Netze, die man als Momentum bezeichnet, sind intelligente Membrane, die eine wichtige Funktion im Immunsystem haben. Ähnliche Membrane entstehen, weil sie sich auf vielfältige Art und Weise als praktisch und erfolgreich erwiesen. Muster wiederholen sich, ziehen sich durch den gesamten Naturzusammenhang, von den kleinsten Mikroorganismen über Pilzmyzelien bis zum Gehirn und auch zur kosmischen Supernova. Planetary's Skins ist wie eine osmotische Haut, in der das Virtuelle zum Membran mutiert, um eine gleichzeitige Präsenz im physischen und virtuellen Raum zu ermöglichen. Und Technologie dient uns dazu, über Raum und Zeitzonen hinweg gemeinsam über Synergien nachzudenken und Ideen auszutauschen, um die Welt mit der Evolutionsbiologin Lynn Margulis als Organismus zu betrachten, als ein System von einfachen und komplexen Organismen, die nicht völlig voneinander abgrenzbar sind und die durch Myriaden von verknüpfter, kommunizierender Schichten in enger, oft symbiotischer Beziehung stehen. Und der Mensch ist Teil davon. Dieser Ansatz kann uns zu einer neuen Agency führen. Einer Agency, die von der Wirkmacht der Natur lernt und sich mit ihr verbündet, um einen obsolet gewordenen Humanismus hinter sich zu lassen und Diversität als Vielfalt und Reichtum der Natur zu feiern.
Cosmos does not refer to outer space, but on the contrary to locality, says the philosopher Yu Hui. The widest expanse, the universal contracted into tiny, tiny space. What does the philosopher allude to? His idea of cosmos is different from that of the European modern perspective. We always observe cosmos from a particular angle, a particular locality, Yu Hui argues. Cosmos is multiplicity, not singularity. What if there were other images and tales of cosmos, beyond the imagination of the Western scientific narrative? At this point, speculation begins. We don't know where it will take us, but that is the fun part of it. It taps into contingent stories and evidence of the past that will ultimately reshape how we perceive the world in the future. Surprising and sometimes alien, cosmos emerges in diverse conceptions of earth and birth, continuation and dissipation, beings and flesh and other matter. Denser or looser, entangled matter it is, always. But to do this, we need a different mode of sensing and sense-making, a new kind of speculative agency. Shall we call it a re-entanglement, for the lack of a better word? Not that we have become untangled, quite the contrary. Increasingly, we become aware of our impact on nature and the very web of life. Sylvia Wynter calls it our environment in common, even though we treat it in the most uncommon ways. due to the exploitation, the havoc, the annihilation that we as humans, and mainly humans from the West, have brought to many worlds and beings, including myriad humans for centuries. What you see around you in the physical space of this gallery, as well as the virtual space from which I'm speaking to you, is our prototype for an exploration into speculative agency. To Yuqi's insight of a cosmos that refers to locality, we now add that cosmos always speaks of the sheer abundance of entangled diversity. Can we partake in, or even better, can we re-entangle with its magic by grasping the virtual as a membrane, as a connective tissue for the myriad webs of life we inhabit, our planetary skins? Because cosmos is everywhere, and everywhere is slightly different.
It is a joy to approach pure springs and to drink from them. And it is a joy to pick new flowers and to seek a glorious crown for my head. From that place where the muses never yet have on a mortal's head a garland set, as I am teaching about great things, and try to free men's mind from the narrow bonds of it. Nothing ever comes to me.
dies ist nur die Oberfläche allen Lebens. Das große Ganze fließt im Untergrund und gehorcht anderen Zeitdimensionen als dem menschlichen Augenblick. Was wir als Erde bewohnen, ist die Akne, der Auswurf und das Exkrement tiefer Prozesse. Die Haut der Erde ist die Lithosphäre, die harte Erdkruste, über die sich zwiebelartig flüssige und gasförmige Sphären schichten. Wir treffen uns in der Atmosphäre, in der Dampf- und Gashülle metabolischer Darmwinde, in der photosynthetischen Ausdünstung des Planktons, im Dunst, Schweiß und Mundgeruch des Lebens. Alles zusammen nannte der Philosoph Stephen Pearl Andrews im 19. Jahrhundert Geosphäre. Sie reicht vom Lichtblau des Himmels bis ins Höllenschwarz der Erdkruste. Dass die Geosphäre nur zum Teil anorganischen und vulkanischen Ursprungs und großteils Produkt lebendiger Prozesse ist, bemerkte Andrews Zeitgenosse, der Geologe Eduard Suess, der die Geosphäre als Biosphäre beschrieb. Der Geowissenschaftler Wladimir Vernadsky definierte wenig später die Erdkruste als globales Ökosystem im Sinne einer Global Skin, als eine belebte Haut. Geologie und Biologie verschmelzen zur Geobiologie und begründen Vorstellungen wie jene der Gaia-Hypothese oder des Raumschiffs Erde. Vernadsky erkannte, dass das Gestein, das heißt die Lithosphäre, nicht tot ist, sondern Ausdruck des Lebendigen. Selbst Granit wird unter Druck durchlässig wie ein Schwamm und ist von Mikroben besiedelt. Ebenso erkannte er, dass spätestens mit der industriellen Transformation die Menschheit Teil der Geologie geworden ist, indem sie in Summe mehr Erdmasse bewegt als alle Vorgänge in der nichtmenschlichen Biosphäre. Vernadsky nannte diese technokulturelle Sphäre in Vorausschau auf das heutige Anthropozän Noosphäre. Diese Sphäre des menschlichen Verstandes verwandelt die Lithosphäre in Beton und Städte, baut elektronische Netzwerke aus Silizium und spannt eine Infosphäre als digitale Haut über den Planeten. Die größte Datendichte der Biodiversität herrscht dennoch im Hades, im Dunkel der Lithosphäre. Rund 70% aller Bakterien und Archaeen leben nicht im Himmel und in sonnengefluteten Paradiesgärten, sondern in der Hölle, in und unter der Oberhaut der Erde. Die Vielfalt des Lebens hat ihren Ursprung nicht an der Oberfläche, vielmehr wächst sie in den tiefen Bohren der globalen Haut.
Invisible,
1700, newspaper put out a call, name Planetary. One it was enlightenment. We are very far from enlightenment. Variety of reasons. We name the word emergence. This emergence has weird, strange moments. This emergence is connected with surfaces and topological energies. We can go back to Lucretius and the swerve. We can go to Maxwell's cone of time and the notion of present being the surface. In the end, it is all about encounters of entanglement, where the surface gives us agency. Names are forms of distributed intelligence, where emergence is precisely the wild forms of matter, political, literary, alive.
Hello? Planetary skins connect the world osmotically. Throughout the Earth's biospheres, filled with ambivalence, conflict, and potentials, matter inhabits time multidimensionally, and in a plurality of space, it permeates all scales. From the invisible realms of quantum particles, molecular assemblages, and microorganisms, to the unfathomable stretches of the stars, galaxies, and space-time, to the dwindling world we live in now and here. The agency of cosmos is to create and be created. Dimensions abound, everywhere things happen. Reality is sheer abundance. Still, in futile attempts, we deprive ourselves of its wonders. We make it scarce in order to control it, feed off of it, and feel safe. But the safety that lies in fear and anxiety is a miserable illusion. There are always risks, better or worse ones. We've all experienced it.
I wonder where here is and what it means that it might not come. I have a hitch that it has been here for a while, and that is not happening the other side of the computer screen, but in the middle of what we commonly call reality. Looking out over the trees, lawns, and ponds of the Kinshasa golf course, the red clay of the tennis courts, the mint apricot striped new Matrix shopping mall, and the small red, white, and blue graveyard right in front of it, onto the stretch of water where the Congo River opens up onto Pool Malebo, I ponder whether there has ever been a time in which science was this fueled by fiction, contemporary technology that boosted by the imaginations of the previous century, in our case, 20th century books, films, and philosophy. Today, those imaginations return to haunt us as consumer products, deprived of their critical, subversive, utopian potentials, commodified into a duller version of the fantasies originally dreamt up in the collective imaginary. Colourful plastic debris on the garbage heap that is reality. The New Yorker tells me that Microsoft has recently bought the computer game company Activision to furnish the vast realms of the coming or not coming metaverse. When Neil Stephenson popularized the notion of the metaverse in his 1990s novel Snow Crash, he probably did not imagine technology companies actually throwing billions of dollars at the realization of this imaginary three-dimensional virtual space. If an imaginary virtual space becomes a real virtual space, where exactly is the difference between those two rather abstract reals? First of all, when this fantastic abstract meta space leaves the book covers and enters computer code, it will turn from a fiction into a simulation, which probably means that it exists no longer inside of you, but you exist inside of it. Simulations aim to be indistinguishable from the world, where fictions, by definition, set themselves apart from reality. In a world that increasingly coincides with simulation models that constantly predict, calculate, and regulate, could fiction, in its old-fashioned insistence not to be real, in its persistence on a scene that tells it apart from reality, become a contemporary mode of critique?
Ob wir nun wie Marian Kaiser in Kinshasa oder Johnny Golding in London, Tanja Traxler oder Thomas Nail in den USA sind oder vielleicht auch hier in Innsbruck, über uns ist immer unsere planetare Haut. Sie ist keine Grenze, sie ist etwas ganz Durchlässiges, etwas Fragiles. Es ist unsere Atmosphäre und sie beträgt weniger als 1% des Erdradius, der immerhin 6.378 Kilometer lang ist. Und die verschiedenen Sphären unserer Atmosphäre reichen bis in die obere Stratosphäre, ca. 50 Kilometer. Und 50 Kilometer, wenn man sich so überlegt, sind gerade mal von hier, Innsbruck, bis nach Imst. Als Joseph Kittinger 1960 den Weltrekord als US-Fallschirmjäger brach und aus einer Höhe von 31 Kilometern, also aus der Stratosphäre, seine Gondel Excelsior 3 verließ und aus dem Schwarz des Alls Richtung Erde sprang, befand er sich 4,5 Minuten im freien Fall. Und er erinnert sich, ich hatte wirklich kein Gefühl des Fallens. Ich drehte mich auf den Rücken und schaute nach oben, wo der Ballon in den Himmel raste. In 30 Kilometer Höhe rollte sich Kittinger auf den Rücken, als wolle er sich auf diese dünne Atmosphäre legen. Und er sieht, wie seine Gondel in den schwarzen, sternenübersäten Himmel rast. Er fällt mit Schallgeschwindigkeit, hatte aber absolut kein Gefühl des Sinkens. Er fühlte sich schwebend. Es war wie ein Fall nach oben. Also hatte Thales von Milet doch recht. In der Realität, sagte er, leben wir nicht auf einer Schicht aus Erde, sondern am Grund eines Ozeans aus Luft. In diesem schwebte Kittinger. Das erinnert mich an die Episode von Stephen Baxters Buch Evolution, in dem er spekulative Momente der Menschheitsgeschichte von den Dinosaurierzeiten bis in die ferne Zukunft mit wissenschaftlichen Gegebenheiten vermischt. Er beschreibt zum Beispiel eine Art Pterosaurier, einen Flugsaurier, der mit ganz filigranen Flügeln und einer Spannweite von bis zu 100 Metern in der oberen Stratosphäre lebte. In einer Höhe, in der sich Kittinger als erster Mensch, also 1960, befand, als er mit seinem Fallschirm aus seiner Gondel sprang. Und dieser Luftwal, der in den Dinosaurierzeiten gelebt haben könnte, schaufelte also beständig Plankton, Insekten und Spinnen und alles, was sich sozusagen in diese Höhen getragen haben, in sich hinein. Er konnte die Krümmung der Erde sehen und die Sterne am schwarzen Himmel über ihn, als er wie ein Satellit täglich die Erde umrundete.
Change is urgent, and we know it. But is it about reorientation, as we are often reassured? A new renaissance, a new enlightenment? Won't it just keep us on track of modernity, this colonizing worldview that projects itself onto quantifiable space? Won't it just feed our imagination with small adjustments? a nicer behavior while we stick to well-worn trails. There is urgency to finally emancipate from all these outdated concepts and the violence they are still provoking. Shouldn't we instead listen closely to those more chthonic cosmic poets and makers arising from human as well as more than human worlds? Those who appreciate the wild and the chaotic, the turbulent and the contingent, the alterity within entangled relations. Those who embrace raw matter as ever-changing emergence and engage in non-adaptation to the technologies of ideology and foundational ideals. Those whose debt to the earth, the air, and all that lives has taught them how entangled as matter we all are, coexisting with everything alive. Don't these voices, these new ancients, claim, at last, a pluriform counter-cosmology in which co-presence resolves the institutions of self-referentiality in the immanence of being as love?
From the toughest of the tough to the weakest of the weak. How strangely democratic. So today, 5 of her 8 testicles will be a bit of a recce. Cannot be that difficult to use several of the suckers simultaneously to seek out a certain kind of knowledge, seek out a certain kind of intelligence. And I will.
Since you cannot see the first beginnings of things with your eyes, let me remind you, besides, that there are bodies which, you must admit, exist in things, and yet are not able to be seen. Therefore, there exists intangible space, void and emptiness. If void did not exist, there is no way things would be able to move. Corporous, to roll, impede, and obstruct would be present at all times for all things, and therefore nothing would be able to move forward, because nothing would yield a place from where to start. Therefore, either all bodies must be deprived of motion, or it must be admitted that void is mixed in things. And from this source, each thing takes its first beginning of motion. And since void is present in created things, it must be that solid matter exists around it. The first beginnings in creating things must of necessity possess a secret, and invisible must of necessity possess a secret, and must of necessity possess a secret and invisible nature, so that nothing would fight against and hinder whatever is created from being able to exist with its own character, for sky, sea, earth, rivers and sun are composed of the same things. And so too are crops, trees and animals. But they are mixed with different things and moved in different ways.
Das menschliche Mikrobiom ist die Gesamtheit allen mikrobischen Lebens im Menschen. Mikroben befinden sich in Geweben und Flüssigkeiten an vielen Stellen des menschlichen Körpers, beispielsweise im Magen-Darm-Trakt oder eben auch auf der Haut. Es tummeln sich in uns und um uns herum Milliarden von Mikroben, ungefähr so viel, wie es menschliche Zellen gibt. Wir glauben, dass unser Körper klar und scharf in seinem Umfang und Grenzen definiert ist. Das ist überhaupt nicht so. Er ist unscharf, undurchlässig und ein gigantischer Planet für Mikroben. Mikroben leben auch unter extremsten Bedingungen und können sogar auf der Außenseite des Space Shuttles ins All reisen und lebendig zurückkehren. Und in der weltraumähnlichsten Umgebung auf der Erde, nämlich der Antarktis, kann man Meteoriten finden. Und hier wurde 1984 der ALH 84001 entdeckt. Ein Meteorit, der über 4 Milliarden Jahre alt ist, nämlich vom Mars und vom Mars stammt. Und damals, vor 4 Milliarden Jahren, gab es am Mars noch flüssiges Wasser. Und dieser Meteorit war besonders interessant, weil man dachte, man hat einen Nachweis gefunden, dass es Spuren von außerirdischem Marsleben gibt in diesem Meteoriten. Es wurde dann aber ungefähr 10 Jahre später endgültig revidiert.
History, order, and habits arise. History, and habits as to all things,
Tiefer als der Tag gedacht ist nicht nur die menschliche Psyche. Tiefer als der Tag gedacht ist das Leben an sich. Das himmlische Leben ist photoautotroph. Es nährt sich von Sonnenlicht. Aber es gibt noch eine andere Art der Autotrophie in der dunklen Unterwelt. Die Chemolithoautotrophie. Sie bildet die Schattenseite des Lebens. Die ältesten Lebensformen sind chemolithoautotrophe Archaeen und Bakterien, die sich von Steinen und Mineralien nähern. Diese chemolithoautotrophen, also wörtlich steinessenden Organismen, stellen die herkömmliche Biologie auf den Kopf. Ohne Sonnenlicht und Photosynthese beziehen sie ihre Energie aus anorganischen Verbindungen, aus Eisen, Mangan, Uran, Arsen oder Schwefel. Ein gutes Drittel der gesamten Biomasse des Lebens steckt vermutlich in der Erdkruste. Diese Mikroben gelten unter Astrobiologen als wahrscheinlichste Lebensform auf fremden Planeten. Metaphorisch gesprochen begegnen wir in der Hölle nicht dem Teufel, sondern Aliens, mikroskopisch kleinen Außerirdischen.
Don't we need a different approach to technology and the digital too? One that counters the techno-capitalist fantasies of the metaverse and other predictive simulations that only produce extractive asymmetries and biases, widen the gap between the rich and the poor, exploit divisive politics, and reinsert reactionary norms of class, race, and gender, prejudices we need to overcome. There is much to regret, and it seems much to be infuriated about. Rage is growing everywhere, but giving yourself over to the death drive, to hate and exclusion, to destruction and war won't help. There's no way out. We are too deeply entangled in nature's relational processes to free ourselves and do as we please, whatever that would even mean. But there are ways in. There are many forms of sensing and sense-making. We only need to evoke the diversity of practices, ancient or indigenous, animated or artificial, scientific or cultural, all of the methods of learning and unlearning that can reconcile us with being part of nature and its wild, entangled meshes. In fact, this is a derivative speculation. It engages in experimental flights and recalibrations of self-transgression, instead of being fundamental and idealistic at its core. It is less about fixed objects and objectives because it focuses on and immerses in the liminal, ephemeral, and volatile relations, matters whose emergence leaves reality incessantly.
Das Leben steckt nicht in Worten und Bildern, es steckt in Molekülen. Was wir unter Natur verstehen, ist ein hauchdünner, kurzer Film im Phantasmagorium unserer beschränkten Vorstellung. Im Kino unserer Kultur laufen nostalgische Bilder. Die rund 500 Millionen Quadratkilometer Erdoberfläche mit ihren Wiesen, Wäldern und Ozeanen scheinen eine große Leinwand für unsere Naturprojektion zu sein. In Relation zu den 5 Milliarden Kubikmetern belebter Erdkruste ist die sichtbare Oberfläche aber nur ein zäh fließender Schaum von Gebirgen und Tälern. Das Leben passiert im Untergrund, im Plutonit des Hades, unter wenigen Metern blaugrüner Haut. Hugh McDiarmid dichtete All is lithokinesis, or lochia, carpolite fruit of the forbidden tree.
In this matter, I want you to understand too, that when the first bodies are moving straight downward through the void, by their own weight, at times completely undetermined, and in undetermined places, they swerve a little from their course. But only so much as you could call a change of motion. because unless they were accustomed to swerving, all would fall downwards like drops of rain through the deep void. Nor would a collision occur, nor would a blow be produced, by the first beginnings. Wherefore, again and again it is necessary that corpora swerve a little, but no more than a minimum, lest we seem to be inventing oblique motions and the true facts refuted. And next, if every motion is always linked, and a new one always arises from an old one, and a new one always arises from an old one in sure, and a new one always arises from an old one in sure succession, and therefore the primary bodies do not burst the laws of fate. From where does there arise for living creatures throughout the world this voluntas, this purpose of desire, torn from fate, by which we go wherever pleasure leads each of us, and where the mind itself carries us? For doubtless, one's own will provides for each a beginning of these things, and from it motions stream through the limbs. Now you see, don't you, that although an external force pushes many, and often forces them to move forwards and to be thrown headlong back, there is nevertheless something in our breast which is able to offer resistance. Fight back. And whatever things usually arise will exist, and whatever things usually arise, and whatever things usually arise, and whatever things usually arise will exist and grow and flourish in their strength, insofar as it is granted to each through the laws of nature.
From the southern balcony, I overlook the former colonial workers' quarters of Linguala and Bandal. They consist of so-called asse, perfectly square pieces of land separated by water, the gigantic chessboard of the city that ends somewhere on the horizon. The blueprint was based on Belgium. Every parcel that makes up Kinshasa today is a cell that was first sketched on a piece of graph paper by the Belgian colonial administration and then printed onto the soil for kilometers and kilometers. I can see Christ's and Lydia's parcel at a distance. It is 73 squares full, and then 24 parcels to the left. I decide to drive over. I've got the keys to their parcel, or two I might find when in Berlin. When I enter their parcel, I find it filled with dozens of books hanging on invisible little flags from the moon of the tree trees, the ceiling, like miniature models of the place itself. Some of them are still perfectly rectangular, others already in various states of decay. I have a closer look and I realise that I'm surrounded by cheap Amazon reprints of Euclid's Elements and the beautiful edition that include Oliver Burns' famous colourful sketches from 1847. Standing in a rectangular geometric form of parcel among thousands of other rectangular parcels that all originated on the same piece of Belgian graph paper, surrounded by the shapes of small rectangular books on the invention of geometry slowly deteriorating and changing elements and constant exhaust fumes, I asked myself, what imprints itself into those books? And what does Euclid have to tell us in Kinshasa? I opened my laptop, hit Command Space, and typed in fabulation, a text by Daniel Folicello Barber. Quote, however, one resists this fiction not by casting one's lot with the real, since the real, at least when it's defined in stark opposition to the fictive, is the effect of the perceived fiction. And one frees the real from the pre-established fiction, not by refusing reality. The point is that one resists the fiction at present by producing another style, or more precisely, by turning the power of fabulation against the fictions that present themselves as the true. The opposition between the true and the false is thus crossed by the necessity of telling a story, and excessively so.
Do we lack the imaginative power to leap from our limited humanism to sensing and sense-making with a more open, wilder awareness? What about the courage to dream up a magical imagination that decenters us towards a joyful appreciation of all that exists and lives, that allows us to turn from seeking the next fixed position, the gridlock we call security, to emotion more akin to breathing, a sense of being in and with the world, and a resolute move towards a more inclusive activation that is not afraid of what circles back.
Vor kurzem ist die Raumsonde JUICE der Europäischen Weltraumbehörde zum Jupiter gestartet. Sie wird in 8 Jahren das System Jupiter erreichen und dann dort ein besonderes Augenmerk auf die Eismonde Ganymed und Europa legen. Und diese Eismonde sind besonders interessant, weil sie wahnsinnig dicke planetare Schichten haben, dicke Häute aus Eis. Darunter vermutet man Salzwasser und eventuell Leben. Begegnen wir dann in dieser Hölle, um mit Thomas Feuersteins Worten zu sprechen, den lang ersehnten Aliens? Während Mikroben einfach so ins All fahren können, benötigen wir Menschen Hüllen, Mikrobiosphären, Erden im Miniaturformat, Raumschiffe, Raumschiffbiosphären, die es uns, fragilen Lebewesen, ermöglichen, im All zu leben. Es herrschen dort extreme Umweltbedingungen zwischen minus 250 Grad Celsius und plus 120 Grad Celsius. Es gibt ein Vakuum, kein Laut durchdringt diesen Raum. Es gibt keinen Umgebungsdruck, kontinuierliche Mikrometeoritenschauer und kosmische Strahlung. Also wenn wir nicht in einem Raumschiff, einem Raumanzug oder irgendeiner technoiden Hülle, Schutzhülle stecken, dann ereilt uns in wenigen Sekunden der Tod. Die Schutzhülle, die wir im erdnahen Orbit auf einer Raumstation benötigen, um in diesen extremen Umwelten leben zu können, ist aus Metall und sie ist völlig undurchlässig und nur 4,8 mm dick. So ungefähr so dick, wie mein Daumennagel breit ist. Und wenn ich mir das überlege, dass diese 4,8 mm Daumennagelmembran, die mich im Raumschiff von diesen ganz extremen Bedingungen außerhalb im All beschützen, uns mein Überleben sichern, dann findet das eigentlich eine Entsprechung in dieser 50 Kilometer dünnen Atmosphäre, dieser hauchdünnen Schicht im Vergleich zu dieser riesigen Erde, dem Raumschiff. Und dass diese Atmosphäre nämlich so dünn und durchlässig ist, ist besonders und dass sie uns trotzdem vor dem All beschützen kann.
And in performative flux, softly met to stable granularity, weaves tangible matter in micro and macrosymmetry. Essential circulations, spiral expand and dissipate until all unravels, until it falls, until all unravels, until it falls, until all
must be admitted that there are other worlds in other regions, as well as different races of men, as well as different sorts of wild beasts, until nature, who created life, things, has led all to the final. Here, development will stop. All things gradually waste away. So too, therefore, will the walls of the wide world be assailed on all sides and sink into crumbling ruins.
Sachverständigkeit.
Diesen Text für den Schluss nochmal, ich vergesse das immer. Dieser letzte.
Gut, dann, okay. Wenn
Sie gerade um. Ja, ja, das wird kein Problem sein.
Waren wir zu leise?